Hello everyone, it's Comrade Snake. Welcome to our first 1914 Nach Paris video, which is really just gonna kind of be going over basically the example of play. Woo! For the very first scenario, victorious recovery at I don't know how to pronounce that one in French. Gise, Gise. I don't know. I don't know French well enough to know how to pronounce that, but. So this is just, it's not exactly a tutorial, but I want to go over it in this context of just using their example play because, I'm trying to learn the game myself. I've kind of done a little bit of experimenting, and I figure let's just go over it the way they have it in here, and that'll make it easier to just kind of show a little bit about how the game plays and how some of the systems. But this is not like a full tutorial or anything like that, or any kind of strategy video. This is just kind of going over the basics so you get a little bit of an idea of how the game plays, and kind of help me kind of understand a little more as well about how the game plays. I think kind of just going over it and talking about it out loud just kind of helps cement things that I've been just kind of reading and fiddling with. And yeah, so there may be certain things that come up, like rules, ideas that it may not exactly be fully explained in the example of play, and I will kind of talk about that because they just kind of list things that happen and you got to kind of follow along with the rule book. But I'll get into that. I have the rule book also along with that example of play and the player aids, so we'll kind of go through it a bit here. Now I will note that the way this game lays out its smaller scenarios is a little odd, and I kind of get why they did it, because they didn't want to make a bunch of different, they didn't want to print like a bunch of different turn tracks on here or anything like that. So it all actually uses just the main normal campaign game turn track, basically, and it just, things start at a certain turn. In this case, this scenario 1, victorious recovery, starts technically at turn 13, but nothing really happens in the first turn. Like it's basically just a kind of setup turn where there's a couple things you got to do some rolls for constructing field works in an area for each side in the first turn, and that's really it. And it's not a guarantee either. It's a roll. And then there's, I think in other scenarios, it starts on that, and it kind of starts with units entering from like off map, basically, because all the smaller ones use these just these kind of different already pre-made maps instead of the full game map. There are two very large, or actually, sorry, I think it's two large and then two kind of smaller maps that make the full campaign game, or a couple of the larger but still not full campaign scenarios use some of those maps. But a lot of the smaller ones just have these kind of little printouts, so that's nice. I mean, it's not that big. It's, my hand kind of covers the whole board here, and just a certain selection of counters and all that. It's very nice. Anyway, so this scenario, the victory conditions are about inflicting casualties, basically, and a couple hexes I think that the Germans can try to take, but it's mostly just kind of a scenario to see how combat works and movement works and maneuver and all that, and figure out there's there's lots of detail on the map, so you got to kind of figure out all these little rivers and try to get all the these forests and all that, what the movement and combat modifiers and everything like that is just to kind of get you kind of thrown into that. So there's really not a lot of strategic maneuvering or anything like that you're going to do. I will say that so the way the game kind of works, let me just pull up this infantry unit, for example. So units here have a lot of information on them. Of course, they have their type, so this is infantry, division. You have combat factors here. It's kind of going out of focus. Combat factors here, how much you're adding into its combat value. And then you have like movement, this 50 is a movement factor. So it uses really big numbers for all these things. But the 50 movement points might seem kind of crazy, but if you understand that really you can kind of just divide everything basically by 5. Like a standard clear hex takes 10 movement points. So, you know, this is basically moving 5 hexes of clear terrain, but then they make it kind of granular, or, you know, these numbers, so that a forest hex, for example, or whatever, you know, takes 12 movement points. You're not exactly having to do weird fractions or anything like that. So you just, you know, 50 minus 12, and now you got, you know, 38 left, and then you can move, you know, another, you know, I get it. It makes it so it's a little more clear on that front. Then you have, or not clear, but more granular. I'm sorry, it keeps going out of focus. And then you have, here's the number of steps that the unit has. So it has 4 steps. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go to the middle. Middle is like artillery factors for a unit versus a fortification. So it gets 6 artillery factors on a unit, 0 on a fortification. This unit really can't do much at all to fortifications. But and then we have steps. So this is a 4-step unit. So if it took a hit, it'd be down here. You have a red dot now. So it's 3 steps now, and then it would get exchanged out for an alternative 2-step version of the same unit that is off board right now. So that's cool. And then we have you know, a cavalry, which is, you know, of course similar, you know, works similar but higher movement, things like that. And it's only a 2-step unit before it's destroyed. There are also, down here there are several artillery units on the French side and a couple on the Germans that provide some firepower for artillery bombardments and the like, which is a separate thing. Artillery bomb barrages are separate from normal combat. That's a thing that we'll at some point go over. I think that happens in the scenario at some point. Let me just double check. Maybe not actually. Maybe they don't do any barrage. Yeah, there's no artillery barrage. This I mean, you could do it in the scenario, but I mean in the example play, they don't go into artillery barrages for this yet. I think that's in the later example. That's fine. We're just going to go over kind of the basic movement combat here. There's also fieldwork markers. Like I said, that's something that can be come into play during the main game, or in this scenario, it doesn't, or this example play rather, it doesn't happen. There's only a couple opportunities in the actual scenario specific rules. And in this, the example play plays it out as both the attempts to build field fortification fail. So we're basically just going to skip right over to where the action starts, which is technically game turn 14, and it starts with the French doing some movement. So let's show off some of that, for example, real quick. Just do a few, and so you get kind of an idea. You can see how it works. So I guess there's something else I should point out, because it's going to matter here, is unit facing matters in this game. You can optionally choose that it doesn't, and that all units just exert a kind of more standard all-around zone of control. But it's not technically made for that, although it does work. But we're, of course, playing with those rules. So units have infantry units specifically exert a zone of control in 3 spaces in front of them. So I'm going to use the top of the counter to represent their front arc, which is pretty normal. So this unit here, the 38th Infantry Division, is exerting a zone of control in these 3 spaces. And then these 2 spaces over here behind it are its flank space. And then this space directly behind it is AL-24, would be considered a rear space. So depending on if it was being attacked from certain directions or multiple directions, would change the combat modifiers there. And we'll see combat here fairly soon. The other thing is that moving above a certain threshold will give you a penalty for combat, which I have some markers over here. So if you look here, you have -1 to its combat ability check, which is kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a morale or a efficiency check, but they call it combat ability check to a unit, which is this number right below its steps. So 12 for a lot of these French units. A few of them have higher, like 13. German has a few 14, 14, 12, 13, 12, 11. Like, so, you know, it kind of depends. Some units get banged up, they get less combat effective too. Have less combat ability. So If they exceed 50% of their movement allowance, then they're taking a -1 because they've been on a march and they're not going to be as effective. You can also have a -2 if you completely use up all of your movement points. Then you are at a -2 to your combat ability checks. And then if you go on an extended march, which is even going even farther than your actual printed movement allowance, which you are allowed to do, but with certain restrictions, then you will get a, I think you're up to the other side over here. You'll get a -3. That's not really going to happen in this example of play or really much in this scenario because it's not really necessary, but you can get up to a -3 on your combat ability check. There's all kinds of other things that are pretty interesting about this, how this game works. When units take damage, it take step losses, it kind of paralyzes them. They're not able to do much until they have either a turn or two, depending on how many step losses they take, where they get restrictions on their actions. So for example, took a step loss, no combat. So you have to basically wait a turn, or if you're taking 2 step losses, you have to wait no combat and no artillery on units, and then you gotta flip it and lose. So you have to take some turns off basically to recover those units, so they cannot go back into combat. So that's an interesting one, and that is true for attacking units as well. So everybody, if you're getting bloodied up, you got to take time to recover, which is an interesting aspect to it as well. All right, so let's start with those movements. We can get in there. So the first one that it lists out is the 51st Rifle Division here is going to move. It's going to use 42 points of its movement as it moves to AL25. And AL25 is this one over here. So it's going to go, if we start here, it's going to use 10, 22, and then this would be 32, and then 42. So that's its 42 points. So we're going to put a -1 cab rating on it, and I'm just going to slide it under, even though this guy's going to move, but we'll slide that under and put him back on top. Okay, next up we would do the 4th DC Cavalry Unit over here. They are going to move from here all the way to AM26 over here, and they're going to do that. And so the thing is, we want to avoid enemy zones of control because that will force things to stop. So it's going to go 10, 20. Wait, did I do that right? Yes. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. I just realized did I do that right? Oh, no, I did. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure I follow this right, but the diagrams are a little awkward to read sometimes. But I was looking at there's a chart where it shows all the movement trails, and I realized that it's showing units after they move. So for a second, I thought I had units misplaced, but no, so it goes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 60. So that ends up at AM 26. So now it has to stop because it's in enemy zones of control, and it'll get a -1 cab marker. And just to make things easier, as more units are going to pile in with cab markers, I'm just going to kind of move them on top, and the cab marker will represent everything below it. Will have that rating. Next up, we are going to move the 19th and 20th divisions, which are the ones. There's the ones down here. No, that's not that guy. Where's that guy? There they are. So 19 and 20. So these two are going to move also to AM 26. So they're going to go use 10, 20, 30, 40, and that's going to end up with them also at -1s. There we go. And then we'll do, next up is going to be first wall, this guy here, the artillery unit is going to move to AN 26, and it's going to do that by going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And we'll put it like that so it's got its arcs from here, I think. Or maybe it's best to put it like that. Nah. No, the example shows it like that, so we'll do it like that. Okay, and then we'll put a cap marker. Okay. So, pretty straightforward, nothing crazy there in how the movement works. Let me flash forward once I get everything in place, and you can see how it looks after. Real quick, that was I moved the wrong artillery unit. It was supposed to be the 120 one, so it moves over there. And it also does not, artillery units do not get combat ability minuses for movement, so we don't need to worry about that. But anyway, corrected that. Now I'll move the rest. Okay, so now everything has been moved. So basically there was a shuffle here from a chunk of the French units on their right and kind of center reserve, moved over to open up with some attacks onto the German right over here on this left side of the French line. So that's what's going to happen here. And I realized I didn't mention army commander units or general units, HQ units. I think the HQ is technically what they are, but this, I'm not going to go into all these rules about specific things in here, but basically, these HQ units are needed to maintain. You need to maintain lines of communication with your units, or they lose significant, they take significant penalties. And that's like that little 9 there in the corner. That is this HQ's range for the French. Come on, come into focus. Come into focus. Come into focus. There we go. So that 9 is its range, and then it has movement factors of 80. And yeah, we're not going to go into all the details about the HQ units right now because it's not really going to be relevant for this example of play or this scenario. Same for the the red actually means something too. In the case of the French, they have certain restrictions on what they are able to do, or more like requirements, I guess would be the better word. Okay, so then it would go from the movement phase. We now go to the combat phase, and we are going to, do some combat here. So the first one is going to be the 38th and 36th Division, which is these two down here. So we have the 36th and 38th French Infantry Divisions, and they're going to be attacking this space here with the German 14th and the 14th German Infantry Division. So the odds ratios, if we were to do all the math, which you can see it's 26 plus 18, so it's 44 versus the 1st Infantry Division is 26. So that gives it a 1.7 to 1 force ratio, and we have to round down in the chart. So the combat would be conducted on the 1.5 table, and we'll go over what that means here in a second. So the only modifier that matters for the actual combat, because there's no river or anything, there's no other terrain features, is that the French and Belgian units in this game have a penalty called eye-catching uniforms. So they have there's a +1 to the modifier, which is bad for them. You want to you want to roll low, basically. You want to wait, is it low or is it high? I'm always forgetting. Yes, you want to roll low. Looking back, I just look over the chart real quick. But yeah, you want to roll lower, ideally. That's better. Lower rolls with the D20, which is what this game uses, is better. That's what you want. Same for so if you were to make a combat ability check, so it's 12, you need to equal or be lower than that. So what this -1 chip does is not make your roll -1, it makes your actual combat ability for that roll -1. So you'd have to roll, if I was rolling a combat ability check for this 51st Division right now, it would be, I'd have to be 11 or less rather than 12 or less. So that's where the penalty is. So you want to roll low in this game. Anyway, so now we would roll the dice and add 1 to it. So just for sake of example, I rolled a 1. But in the case of the example of play, it says that the final dice roll was a 9. And there's a +1 for the eye-catching uniforms, which will make it a 10. So the modified die roll is a 10, which I'm going to find it on here. Well, anyway, modified die roll of 10. So then we would go to the 10 die roll of 10. Okay, so there you go, die roll of 10 on the 1.5. So we have this one here. So the top is attacker, bottom is defender. So what this little circle means is that they need to take a combat ability check. And in this case, there is no modifier on the attackers, and the defenders has a -8 on it. And if either party fails, so it's each unit has to take this check. Any unit that fails is going to lose 1 step. That's what the hollow dot means. The hard red dot means that they will take a hit, and then there's a potential other one here with the hollow. So that's what that means. Now, in this example of play, the German player whose defender had the worst result, so he must make his cab test first. And because he has a -8 to his roll thing, he would have to make a 3 or less. And in the case of the example, he fails the roll. So it will lose 1 step. So it is now, oh, no, wait, I'm sorry, I need to swap this one out. 1 second, I had it off the camera. So it's now has 2 step losses. 2 step losses. And it will retreat, I believe it was 1 step, it retreats to AP 27, so it retreats back. Okay. Okay, the 38th, and so then these two would do a cab check with their -1s. So both of them pass. I'm not going to say what their fake rolls are. This doesn't matter. Both of them pass, and then they choose to remain in the hex. They don't want to get a bad counterattack. So in this example, they decide not to continue the advance. They did some damage and were no worse for the wear for it. So good on them. They will stop. Next combat here is the 35th and 53rd. Yeah, 35th and 53rd, plus the 69th and the 37th and the 4th raw artillery here are all going to be attacking the stay where you are all going to be attacking the this hex here with the second guards, the 19th reserves, and these I think they're engineers. Yeah, okay. So anyway, they're all getting attacked from both these hexes, attacking into them. So the final odds ratio after being rounded down is 2 to 1. And then there is a +1 modifier for the eye-catching uniforms because they're French. There is a -1 for this is good for them, -1. So for attacking across 2 hexes, so that's good. There's no flanks or anything, so that's unfortunate. And sorry. Okay, I had forgot about this this rule and the intermittent from last time. I was messing around with this, but so all the French units with the DR or the DT, which is so DR, and that's a DR. There's no DTs now. So these 2 units, the 69th and the 53rd, have to take cab tests when attacking. Otherwise, each failure results in a +3 added to the combat. It's just a rule, and that lasts until game turn 17, which technically this scenario takes place prior to that. So that's what's happening there. And in this example of play, the 69th fails, so there's a +3 to its modifier. Yes, okay, +3. So the final result is a +9 to the roll. Yes, final is a +9. Okay, so then the French would roll. Now, oh, so I rolled a 2, but in the example play, it's a 1, so I get pretty close. So they roll a 1, +9 makes it a 10, and that's on the 2 to 1. So once again, we'll look back on the 10 column to the, excuse me, 10 to row 10 to the 2 to 1 column. So that is a +3 check on the French, and then a must take a hit plus the check on the Germans. So the Germans, once again, got the worst combat results. So first thing that happens is both of their main infantry units must take a step loss. They were both at full strength, but they are now both taken step losses. Okay, and then they would they have to retreat a hex, and they will retreat to AO27 up here. So they've fallen back with this other infantry unit plus von Blue's headquarters. So they have now fallen back, and then this engineer unit is auto-destroyed because it's left alone and it can't move, it can't retreat. I don't know. There's some units that can't retreat, but in this case it can. So with that happens, the French has to take what's it? Okay, I had to check, but so in this case also, because there is a heavy artillery unit taking part over here, the Germans actually have a even lower cab loss. The German cab loses 1, so I didn't did not take that into account anyway when I was looking at that. Well, I'm trying to look at it now. Okay, so yeah, they took the mandatory hit and retreated. Now they have to take their cab tests. So they are at a plus, I believe it was +3 from the result. Yes. So they have a +3, but also a -1 because of the heavy artillery. So they're getting 12 + 3. Yeah, they're, well, okay. Have they not taken, they have not considered to have taken their check yet, I guess, of the losses, because it's saying that's 12. Maybe that's a typo in the example play. I'm not 100% certain, but it says 12, so they will retreat, I suppose, and then no, because it says it first. I think there's a slight mistake here, because they should be 11 and it's listing it as 12, which is their full strength cab, I believe. I'll have to double check that. If maybe in the rules it says the cab rating is kind of the original at the start of the combat, but that seems a little, I don't know, it seems funky to me. Not sure, but I'll just keep going on with the example play as it reads, rather than thinking it might have something a little off here. So it says their cap rating was 12 + 3 - 1, so a total of 14. And then it assumes that they pass their test, so there's no extra step losses. But I feel like it should actually be 11 + 3 - 1, to make it 13. But that's okay. Okay, now the French units have to check. So they all have +3 modifiers. So it assumes the 35th down here actually fails its right, despite the bonus. So it loses 1 step. And then the 53rd rolls an 8, so it's okay. But we now have a damaged 35th. Next up over here, they all do their rolls, and the 69th fails with a roll of a 17, which would put it above its modified rating, so it loses a step. and then the 37th passes. So we'll just take it all there. In fact, we'll put the wounded on top. Okay, and now the third attack here is going to be this stack. So we have the 4th Cavalry Division, 20th Infantry Division, and the 19th Infantry Division, the French, all of them with a -1 on their cab rating, are going to be attacking the 20th Infantry Division by the Germans, which is a very heavy unit. It's got a 30 strength points, so pretty heavy unit. So the combined here is 62 combat strength of the French against the 30 German, so that's going to be a 2-to-1. We have a +1 for the eye-catching uniforms and a +6 because we are attacking across a minor river. So that's going to be a total of a +7 to the roll. So that's not great. And then so that's it. So we'd roll the die. In the example here, the French roll a 4. So we'll say for the 4 +7 makes an 11. And let me get the chart back. Just set it down behind me. So in this case, it's going to be an 11 on the 2-to-1, which is, I guess we'll start at the 2-to-1. It's a little off here. It's a little slightly awkward on the camera here to get the positioning right. So we're in this column here. So we have attackers rolling a cab test at a +3, and the defenders rolling at a -11. So the German player has it the worst, so they're going to make a cab test at a -11, and their combat ability rating is 12, so -11 would put it at a 1. So they absolutely have to get a 1. And in the example here, they roll a 3, which is it's a good roll, but not good enough here. So they have to take a step loss, and they retreat back to hex AM28. Okay. Now onto the French. They're adding a +3 and then a -1 because of the movement. Their fatigue. We'll say movement fatigue. So ultimately it's a +1 here. Wait. Oh. Sorry, they have the 1 for that, and then rule 9.51, which is so when one or several units with the red ARF or one several PIO. Yeah, okay. So these units are special rules. Basically, they're going to they have a harder. They're particular types of units here that are more prone to take damage from their combat. So I'll just let me just read that rule real quick here. 2.511. So that is the red here on the artillery factor that's part of it. That's giving them the -1 there, and then the other -1 is the artillery. So yeah, it's I was mixing it up with the HQ's rule. The red means offense en train, but actually what we're talking about there is the red artillery factor on the German unit gives a -1. Anyway, so it's a total of +1 with the 2 -1s and the +3 from the roll. So in this case of the 19th succeeds their roll according to this, and then the 20th also succeeds, and the third. So all 3 succeed in this example, and they choose not to advance. Okay. And then next we have the 4th and final combat of the French turn here, which is these 2 hexes, all these units attacking this German unit. Oh, the German unit is supposed to have a Fieldworks marker on it, so I missed that from earlier during the setup. So apologies, that should have field works. Okay, and that is going to change things. It's going to give them a multiplier. It's German is a 1.3 times 1.3 on their combat factors. Anyway, so thankfully the example play just does all the math, so I don't need to type it all out. But when you add up all the combat factors of the French, we're talking about 115. And then the Germans, with the only unit they have here is the 2nd Guard Infantry, which is 35. But with the field works, it's well, okay, it doesn't actually do that on here. So it lists it as 115 against 35 times 1.3, so it doesn't actually list anything out. But the conclusion is it's a 2.5 to 1. And then we have +1 for eye-catching uniforms, -1 for attack conducted from multiple hexes, +6 for the minor river here. So the total, with everything said and done, is a +6 to the roll. So the die roll on the example is a 6, which is somewhere on here. Here it is a 6. Plus 6 makes it a 12. So I'm not going to pull it out again, but the combat result is going to be defender has to take 1 hit, 1 attrition hit. They call it attrition often here, but one step loss must happen, and then a -2 cab check to see if they lose another, and the attackers will all be taking a +4 cab check. So the Germans have, once again, worse results, so they have to go first. So first thing that happens is the German unit has to take that attrition loss, but they don't retreat yet. Okay? And so next they're going to check their cab test with a -2. So with a total -2 there, total. Okay, also because of the artillery, because of the artillery, they actually also have another -1. So they're going to, it's a total of a -3 with a rating of 14. So it looks like you're supposed to use the original from the start of the combat, the cab number. I still haven't confirmed that for sure by looking at the rules, but that's what it seems to be, because this has happened multiple times now, so I don't think it was a one-off with those other units. Anyway, so cab rating is sorry, I lost my place in the book. -2. Okay, so it's a total is that cab rating is an 11. So the Germans would roll their dice and they pass. Okay, they pass their test. Now, as far as the retreat is concerned, of why they did not retreat, the answer to that, let me check here. It is the reason, I think it might be because they yeah, 9.33. Okay, I should spend a couple minutes trying to find an explanation for why exactly it didn't have to immediately retreat, and I actually have not figured it out yet. I will come back to that maybe at some point, but for the moment, I'm not exactly sure why the German had to retreat. I don't see anything about the field works or the rest, so not exactly sure, but let's just go on from there because it doesn't say anything else. So all of the French units passed their cab tests. Just the long short of it. I can go through all their other things, but they all passed. So that's what happens there. And then the only last thing that happens here in this turn, last two things happen, is that the French have a replacement point, and they will bring the 51st DR. Which ones were they? Around here somewhere. Aha. They are going to bring them back up to full strength. And then the last thing we do is remove all of the fatigue cab markers. think that's all of them. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else sitting around. No. Okay. So with that all said and done, the French have lost 5 steps. Excuse me. The French have lost 2 steps, and the Germans have lost 5, which means the French are on track to win this scenario because they need to inflict equal or greater losses on the Germans to win. It's a pretty simple scenario in this first one here. It's just basically straight combat, and that's really it. Okay, so now we can move on to the German turn. They're going to have to counterattack to try to win, and it's not a great situation at this start. So that whole flank has been bloodied and pushed back, and they've taken some hit in the center too, but they still have a decent amount of forces left that are pretty strong, and the forces that took damage are not exactly crippled. So we definitely have a shot here, and they're going to have to go hard. So what do we have here? So at the start of their turn, we would do an admin phase. There's really nothing to talk about here. All the lines of communication are good, and everything works out well. There's no logistical problems. There's nothing like that. This scenario is so small and short, none of that really particularly matters here. They're not going to do any artillery bombardments, since they can't do attacks with the units that do that. It's not really worth. There's no proper setups really for them to bombard and then attack. So they're going to get straight into the fights here. Well, first they're going to do the moves. So we'll start with the first guard infantry. That is right here. So the first guard infantry is going to move to AM 27. So they are going to go, they're just going to basically slide over here, and they have to stop because it's an enemy zone of control. And so that costs 22 movement points with the zone of control and moving through into the open ground. So, but that does not exceed half of their movements. There is no cab penalty. Next, we're going to move the second guard unit, or not guard unit, excuse me. This is the general infantry. Yeah, we're gonna move this GID, not GRD, and they are right. Is that them? Yeah, that's the 20th Infantry Division. Was this them? Yes, that's them. Okay, so they are going to move to AL 27. So they're going to move here, which will remove the field works. Next, we are going to move the 17th Infantry Division, which is up here. These guys, a strong one with this is like a double division. It's 37 points, and that is going to move to AN 27, which should be that one, yeah. So they're going to move here. It probably makes more sense to put actually all them facing that way. So it's these three. Anyway, oops. So they're moving there. And then we're going to get straight to combat. So the combat here is pretty straightforward. They need to just put a lot of force on the French. They're going to attack the center hex with all 3 of these hexes. We're just going to attack into there. So it is a combined German strength of 135 points. That's a lot. And it's against 62 defending French with 26, 26, and 10. Yeah. So that's 62. 62, so that gives it a rounded down, it's going to be a 2-to-1 fight. The French player decides to fight with his cavalry as well, so there is a rule cavalry when they're attacked by only infantry or no cavalry units are attacking them. They are allowed to do a kind of cavalry withdrawal, but they will not. They're going to stay and fight. And so we have a -3 because there's 2 extra hexes going on here. So We're getting a big bonus for multiple hexes. There's 3 total hexes, so -3. And then +6 because they are attacking across a minor river. And then +5 because of the SSR2, the 1790 hex is in AN 27. So what that is, that +5 is basically a modifier for infantry units that belong to the same corps if they're too distant. So yeah, well, I can just read it. Attacking infantry units belonging to the same corps, unless autonomous, which is a different rule, will get unfavorable modifier of +5 if 2 or more hexes are between them, or if one of the 2 units belonging to the same corps is destroyed or missing when attacking in a combat while fully committed. So in this, I believe the one that's being penalized, I want to say it's the G, but maybe it's actually them, X, or maybe it's actually the 10th. It might be the 10th is the problem. Not 100% certain. I think it's the 10th or possibly the 9th here, since they have more stuff basically off map. Either way, they have a penalty there because the corps are too separated from each other. The units of the same corps are too separated. And so anyway, the total is a +8 to the roll. And they end up rolling a 9. So the Germans roll a 9, and you have to add 8, which makes it a 17. So not a great result. That ends up with the defenders having to make a cab test at -8, and the attackers at a +1. So the French player has the worst result, so they have to go first with the base of -8, and then an extra -1 because of the artillery factors coming in on them. So a total of -9. I believe all of them are 12s. Yes, so they all would have to make a roll of 3. So they start with the 4th Cavalry rolls first. And in this example, they are lucky and they roll a 1. So they are fine. And they will end up staying in that hex. Next up, we have the 19th and the 20th. Both of them roll and they both fail. So both the 19th and the 20th will take step losses, but the cavalry is okay. And then we go to the Germans. So they are rolling. So they check the 1st infantry division here. And they were guard. Maybe that is supposed to be guard infantry division. I'm not sure. Either way, they have to take a check, and they have bad luck and they roll a 20. So they actually end up losing a step from that attack. And then the 17th, the 2nd, 17th, and 19th all pass. So everyone else passes. Replacements fill up the 14th back up a step to its level 3 with the replacement point. And with that, we go to the final French side turn, which would normally be this is going to be the end of the scenario here, and they would be able to distribute replacement points and do other things, but the point being that they actually don't need to do anything, because at this stage there's 6 German losses versus 4 French, which gives a French victory regardless. So that was just obviously, I'm not doing necessarily die rolls there, but to get a little bit of a look at the kind of maneuvering here and attacking that's going to be happening in this game. Zoom back a little bit. So I know this is a little dry because it's a kind of a staged event, so to speak, but to just kind of give an idea of what is going on here, and the kind of attacking and maneuvering in this game. And wanted to do this also because, like I said, I kind of need to kind of figure out these rules for some myself, and there's a couple things that, still have some hiccups on, that I'm not quite sure, like why that unit didn't retreat, for example, earlier, the German, that I need to figure out, and I had forgotten about until I read this again, doing this, that there was the rule about the core being close to each other gives a penalty. So these are things that I'm trying to keep, get down in my head, so that I can play. I want to make one of the larger scenarios here a little more smoothly and not have to worry too much about rules problems. But anyway, so that is just a little tiny introduction here for this. I actually do have a video I didn't think I was going to be making because I forgot about something that I had pre-ordered, but I'll do another unboxing here pretty shortly. But let me get this one up, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.